This is my audience of 3 people for my informative speech. Today, I will be doing my informative speech on NBA player contracts. The amount of money professional basketball players make is astounding. Malcolm Brogdon just recently signed a 4-year extension with the Indiana Pacers worth $89.3 million. The average person probably hasn't heard of Malcolm Brogdon, and his contract is actually small scale compared to other players such as Kevin Durant. In my speech, I will be explaining how NBA players are able to make so much money to play a game. Learning about how NBA contracts work is interesting because the NBA has grown into a billion-dollar industry. Also, NBA player contracts are interesting because the amount of money players make has grown tremendously compared to the past. I'm pretty well informed on this topic because I've been following the NBA closely for the last 10 years. First, I will be explaining how NBA contracts work. Second, I'll be explaining how they have grown over the years. And lastly, I will discuss the free agency period. As I stated previously, I will be informing you on how NBA player contracts work and how they're able to make so much money to play the game of basketball. NBA player contracts have grown significantly over the years. For example, right now, Stephen Curry makes around $261 million for 5 years to play for the Golden State Warriors. According to the International Journal of Financial Studies, in their 1983 collective bargaining agreement, the NBA and the players came to an agreement that there would be no limit on individual player salaries. In the past, contracts were a lot less. For example, Michael Jordan made about $25 to $30 million for 1 year. And at that time, he was considered the highest paid player in the league. NBA television contracts also have a significant role in the reason that players are able to make so much money. The NBA has a current television contract with ESPN and Turner worth $25 billion. In the future, they plan on signing a contract worth $75 billion. According to CBSSports.com, we've already seen $200 million player contracts, and we could see $300 million contracts in the future. The salary cap also plays a major factor into the reason players are able to make so much money. The salary cap is just basically a limit to the amount of money that teams can spend when signing players. Over the last 10 years, the team with the highest salary cap has grown tremendously. Now that I explained how NBA contracts have grown over the years, I'll explain how NBA contracts are structured. NBA players are able to sign contracts for multiple years and for multiple amounts of guaranteed money. Some players sign contracts for 1 year so they can sign a new contract every year, and other players decide to sign contracts for multiple years for some reason, such as if they're content playing on the team they're on or if they want a sense of security. For example, Buddy Hield on the Sacramento Kings signed a 4-year deal worth $94 million. Another part of NBA contracts is guaranteed money and player or team options. As I stated previously, Buddy Hield signed a deal with the Sacramento Kings worth up to $94 million. Only approximately $85 million of that contract were guaranteed. The rest of his contract he could make in incentives, such as making a certain amount of three-point shots in a season. When a player signs a contract, the agreement sometimes includes player or team options. For example, a player can sign a deal worth 4 years, but in that last year, the team can have an option to whether if they want to keep the player or let the player go and not pay the rest of the remaining salary. A current example of this is Anthony Davis with the Los Angeles Lakers. He had a player option in the final year of his contract, which was worth $28 million. He decided to decline his player option and sign a new contract worth up to $190 million. Now that I discussed guaranteed money and player/team options, I will move on to discuss how free agency works. The NBA free agency period usually begins around November, which is the off season. This is a time when players are able to sign new contracts or teams are able to re-sign players to teams they're already on. Depending on the previous contract a player has, he could be considered a restricted free agent. This allows his current team to match any offer that he receives from another team. An example of this was Bogdan Bogdanovic on the Sacramento Kings. He was a restricted free agent and he decided to sign a contract with the Atlanta Hawks worth 4 years, $72 million. The Sacramento Kings weren't able to match that offer because they couldn't afford to at the time. I've informed you on how NBA contracts are structured. I've also informed you on how the NBA contracts have grown over the years. Lastly, I discussed how the NBA free agency period works. Learning about NBA contracts seemed interesting to me because the NBA has grown into a billion-dollar industry. The NBA has grown a lot over the last few years. I don't think that the NBA will slow down growing anytime soon. Thank you.